Good morning. This is Jason Dean coming live, or good afternoon, I should say. It is Friday at 12:12 here at Film Fanatic headquarters. Again, I want to thank everyone for supporting this channel, and especially we just celebrated our 600. We for subscribers, we got up to 602 just recently, and I just put up a video just kind of celebrating it for what it is. Kind of a small potatoes operation here, but I love doing it, and it means a lot sharing all these videos on different movies that I watch and talking about all things related to film. So really want to thank everyone who has been on board for a while, and then also a bunch of the new subscribers that we've gotten, and then all the people that have been commenting on the videos, which has been really great. I love that. That's probably my favorite part. My two favorite things about this channel is, when people comment and I try to respond to. Well, I respond to every comment usually. And again, if there's a mission statement for this channel, it's about bringing movies that really mean a lot to me, but then movies, especially movies that I feel aren't ever really talked about enough, and to shed a little light on them. And if someone out there uh, discovers one or two of these movies and is really turned on by them and is excited, that's my only job that I set out to do. I really love doing interview segments for this channel. It's been a long time since I've done any. I'm gonna, I have plans to do more. I just gotta get off my lazy butt and make it happen. Obviously, setting up interviews it's a little bit more complicated because of scheduling and all of those things. I have a bunch of ideas. I did do a show about probably 3 or 4 weeks ago. I had an interview segment, and we did the show, and then that had all these technical problems with the show. The show wasn't recorded right, so I had to delete it, and so trying to reschedule that, and that will eventually happen. And so yeah, I want to thank everyone who has been really supportive of this channel. It's just been an amazing time. I feel like I'm learning all the time about how to kind of convey the message that I'm trying to get across. So, and then today I just uploaded some couple of new videos that I had recorded the other day. I got this really amazing box set for Superman 1978. It's a DVD set, but it's got a director's cut, which I had never seen before. Probably the best looking DVD that I have. Like, I was really impressed. I was even like, wow, it looks so good. I don't know if I even need to get this as an upgrade because it was so amazing, the quality. So I just uploaded that show. That was a lot of fun to talk about, and then the other show was on Arnold Schwarzenegger's the Running Man from 1987, I believe. Pretty fun movie, super cheesy. Definitely the most like low budget, silly, goofy Schwarzenegger movie I've ever seen. I think out of all the movies he did in the 80s. But I loved it. I loved that it was so campy and ridiculous. But I forgot how, on one hand, how just terrible it is, but I think it's the case, it's so terrible, it's good. So I just uploaded that show as well. And speaking of really awful and terrible, I am on the last video or the last movie, and about this amazing collection that I got a few weeks ago. I got this amazing box set. This was put out by Severin. Fear in the Philippines, the complete Blood Island films. Absolutely incredible. This is an amazing box set. And today's show is on the final film that I have been talking about. I have 3 other videos up there, up on the channel about the 3 other movies, and it was 4 in total. Never seen any of these movies, and I've just been just totally blown away and enamored with these movies. They're just so amazing and ridiculous. I'm also going to be doing a show on Eddie Romero, who was the director of this film, and I'm going to be doing a little show covering a group of Filipino filmmakers are making all of these amazing super low budget exploitation movies in the 70s and 80s, which again, I took a chance with this box set, bought it, never knew anything about this whole kind of like subgenre, and I've just been blown away. I've learned a lot about it, so I'm going to do a show on that, on the filmmakers during this time, especially Eddie Romero, who I had never heard of before, and now I'm officially a massive fan of his work. And today's show is on The Beast of Blood. And this film came out in 1970. Wicked old school. And this movie is totally over the top. Um, it's completely ridiculous, and yet it's so amazing. Um, One of the best in the series. All these movies were just fantastic. I think my favorite one might be the second film that I reviewed, which is Brides of Blood. I think that might be my favorite film in the whole series. But they're equally all just amazing. I mean, super schlocky, and it was a whole group of films, like basically a franchise that these guys made. Mad scientist creates a monster, but after its head is cut off, he keeps it alive in a serum that he has invented. And that's kind of the premise of this movie. It's totally gonzo. The effects are, of course, this is from 1970, so the effects are super uber cheap. I mean, to put it mildly. And but I rather see effects and practical effects that are done so poorly, so just so in such a low budget way, than seeing. I'd rather see that than see really bad CGI. That's kind of how I am, because I just think that there's something. Even I mean, you have great effects guys. The legendary Tom Savini, of course, who did like virtually every slasher movie in the '80s. Um, and he is probably the most well known, probably the greatest special effects guy. But there's something about these effects, and then these films predate that whole time period by many many years. Um, but again, it's marvelous. It's just spectacular. Um, it's There's something. I guess what it is. It's a tactile thing to me. When I see, like, even if it's really bad effects, there's something tactile about it, and it just has this like primal. It gives me this like primal reaction, or when it comes to you know low budget effects, like the master Tom Savini. And then when you look at any of the Lucio Fulci films, they're so, considering how low budget and how that those films had virtually no budget in comparison to, say, to today's films, for effects. And now there's a lot of the advent of digital effects. um when they're done really right, it's just shocking, and it's so like over the top, and it just kind of gets under your skin a little bit more. But I think it's a tactile thing for me, where when you see something handcrafted, coming from a place of, like, say, blood, sweat, and tears, as opposed to like something that is kind of automated. It just has this feel of, where it feels organic. And these effects that were used in these films are just like unbelievable. Like, and again, it's hard to believe that some of these films are as old as they are, especially Beast of Blood, because they definitely, like, they're pretty deranged. They're pretty over the top. Beast of Blood is definitely over the top. It's kind of gonzo, and you know, on one hand, you see you watch this film or these films, and they are utterly ridiculous and super cheesy, but there's something about them where they kind of really kind of ring a bell or something for me. Eddie Ramiro was a director. Again, I just kind of I've been it's a brand new discovery, discovering him as a director, but then his work as a filmmaker. I kind of feel like a lot of his stuff reminds me of Herschel Gordon Lewis, who's one of my favorite directors, who came really before a lot of these films. I started putting out films before Eddie Ramiro, but just there's something about where they're just totally wacky, totally zany, and yet there's moments or certain things that some of these films in particular explore where it's kind of like kind of deranged, kind of fucked up, I guess. And I think there's like this weird juxtaposition, because you have this total like it's trash cinema, but then there's certain things that are kind of shocking, and I think there are certain things around maybe some of the violence and the gore, and some of the, I guess, uh, sex exploitation things in these films that probably because of the political correctness at times that we live in art. I don't think I sometimes think, man, I don't think some of these movies would be able to be made today. So, and it's a when you I get this feeling of like when I watch these movies, and then these films all came out, during the time of the drive-in and when movie theaters were, doing, the grindhouse cinema and all that stuff was happening. I feel like when you watch these movies, you're like watching, you're like looking at a photo from like from the distant past. It's just there's something about it, like a certain kind of period in film history, movie history, that is like, it's gone forever, and we'll never see that again. But it was such a special time. But again, I think there's a lot of films that have been coming out recently where you're very much seeing that influence of a lot of these trash cinema movies and grindhouse cinema. I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard that the new Black Phone 2, has been described as that kind of a thing, big time. The way it's shot, and it has this very kind of dirty, kind of 8 millimeter kind of vibe to it. So, and I think that is a thing. I've been seeing it in other films too. So it does kind of come back. I mean, that pure exploitation world is gone, obviously, in the drive-ins, but there's still a love. And with physical media, like being able to buy this kind of shit now is just like always blows my mind. And what is put out, and that's due to Severin, who they're one of the best companies. But I can't recommend this box set enough. This is absolutely stunning. So Beasts of Blood, the final movie in this collection, amazing, amazing. I think the second film was probably my favorite, but they're all amazing. But one of the things I was starting to say was not George Romero, Eddie Romero was, even though like he was such a, from a standpoint of, from a technical standpoint, not a great director, and just kind of a schlocky artist, but he had this reputation of he knew like make when he was making these films that you know what could he do with virtually no budget, like how can you do a lot with very very little, and like what are your resources. And these guys were, these filmmakers were in the business of exploitation, trying to capitalize on other films that were coming out at the time that were, popular, trying to cater to a certain kind of demographic, trying to cater to, a certain kind of audience, and what have you. But he had this Eddie Romero had this reputation where he, and I definitely think it's true, and there's a lot of great special features on the set where he really, even though the movies are super schlocky and ridiculous, he really tried to take what he was doing really seriously in a lot of ways. Even though it's his films are kind of hilarious, and it's really due to the kind of the production end of it. He really tried to make the films as good as he possibly could. He really tried to make the stories, even though they were all very straightforward, he tried to make them very intricate, around kind of the characters and kind of the narrative of this film, of all of these films. And it's interesting because there's some really great special features and interviews with him on here in this collection where he really talked about he really wanted to you know, do something different within this story and try to make it a little bit more complex and go a little bit further into the characterization. And kind of interesting. It's kind of interesting, you know, kind of a juxtaposition where super schlocky, kind of trashy films, but there's actually some interesting things that you are not expecting to happen with the characters because he did put a lot of time into kind of trying to do something that stood out. But amazing collection. What a way to end this whole series. Beasts of Blood, 1970. They truly, truly do not make films like this anymore. Peace.